The storm in the Caribbean is organizing slowly, and that has big ramifications for where this thing goes towards the end of the week and even into next week. What's going on, guys? Certified meteorologist Jonathan Kagas back with you. This blob in the Eastern Caribbean is soon to be Melissa. We're going to talk about what models are handling this situation the best so that you know what to look for over the next couple of days as this storm organizes. Post in the comments what you think is going to happen. This is soon to be Melissa. It's Invest 98L. That means we get the fancy computer models, which we will take a look at in just one second. We'll also break down the ensembles to give you the clear fork in the road with this storm and show you which is the more likely scenario over the next week to 10 days. So there is the blob. You notice here as we take a quick zoom in how it's still the circulation there by the arrows. It's not tight. It's kind of going up and down. The arrows or the white lines there, that means we have an open wave still. And until that can tighten up, we are still going to have this classified as a just a tropical wave, tropical disturbance. But eventually, we will get in on what is likely to be Melissa. So here is the tropical threat index. And what we're looking at here, the different colors represents what I think are the different threat levels, or at least the opportunity for direct impacts from this tropical system. I think right now from the Yucatan into Florida, that threat is pretty low. It's not zero, but most, especially the Gulf side, I don't think this is getting into the Gulf of Mexico. Too many cold fronts slammed the door from the Yucatan Channel back to the north and west. Could be a little too close for comfort for extreme southeast Florida. We put the orange shaded color through Central America. That's the medium shot through central Cuba. And then the highest potential for direct tropical impacts are going to be from Jamaica to eastern Cuba, into the Turks and Caicos, the eastern Bahamas, and then parts of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. I think right there, there's still some uncertainty to iron out. However, models or the storm, I should say, is organizing on the slower side. If you caught last week's video, we said the slower this organizes, the further west through the Caribbean it is going to go. Some of the solutions had this shooting up through Puerto Rico. We talked about it last week. Didn't think that was going to happen because it likely would take a long time to get going. These are the models through early Tuesday. I think we're going to see these spaghetti models shift even a little bit further to the west. So I think Puerto Rico, we could have some outer bands over the next few days, some thunderstorms, but I really think we're going to see the core of the system try to meander a little bit further to the west. You see some weird things happening with the squiggly lines, the different models. There's a high likelihood that this storm does stall somewhere in between Haiti, eastern Cuba, Jamaica, because the steering current kind of drops out for a short time until the next dip in the jet stream. We'll break all this down through the course of the video, of course, but I'm just wanted to tell you why the models are behaving kind of weird at that stage in the game. We talked about it before. Cold front going to try to shut the door, and there are still a couple of scenarios. But if you remember last week's video, scenario one was that quick exit through Puerto Rico, the Northeast Caribbean. That is over with. That is off the table. So what I want to show you here, this is the Google DeepMind AI, and I know there's a lot of lines, but we are going to break them down together here. So the core of the storm, as I bust out my other telestrator, is right here. And you see them kind of meandering this way. And then we have, okay, a fork in the road that goes up and like that, and then a grouping that goes up and like that. If the storm were to get strong fast, so over the next 24 to 48 hours, we see some kind of development here, then I think it could take this path. That's certainly closer to Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and then back out into the Southwest Atlantic. If it continues to meander along, being a little more elongated and discombobulated and not that strong, it's going to come closer to Central America. Either way, we see it lifting up and to the north and east. I think the Gulf is closed because we're going to have cold fronts. That's a jagged cold front slamming the door. So while I never want to say never, there is a high unlikelihood of this thing getting into the Gulf. Now, it could get close to Southeast Florida on the far western side of guidance, but still, that turn to the Northeast, and I'll show you why in just one second. If you're interested in the meteorology and the science behind all of these lines, I always show my work. We always go over the science of it. But I wanted to show you that first, just to kind of give you a gauge that I'm most concerned with right now. Eastern Bahamas, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Turks and Caicos, right in through there. Obviously, that's where the most of the lines are. We're going to break that down a little bit further. I want to show you let's go to GFS first. I think the GFS, I mentioned early in the beginning of this video that you would know what model is handling this the best. I think the GFS is just too quick with this lifting north and east. So while the western side of Hispaniola, Haiti, and Western Dominican Republic are in play, I think the more likely scenario is the trend into this direction. The GFS doesn't handle the upper level ridge well. It's a little too, it kind of forgets that it's there sometimes. And that's why I think it's going like that. Look at the European ensembles. And again, different initial conditions are put into these things when we don't have a ton of data to give us kind of a wide view. So, still, the Dominican Republic is in play, but you'll notice the far eastern extent of the European ensembles are much further west than what we just saw with the GFS. It's kind of over here if it gets strong. You see the grouping, though, is out here. And the European has always been in the camp that this is going to be weaker for longer, which will allow it to kind of meander to the west and sneak west. So that, and then before it eventually gets caught and lifted up. So why do I keep saying gets caught and lifted up? So here's the deal. This is a big chunk of high pressure right here over Mexico. Its appendage kind of extends out here. So as that guy's going to try to come west or lift north, the steering current really drops out. So that is why it's going to be either very slow moving or stall altogether somewhere in this vicinity. Now, we obviously are hopeful that it stalls kind of right here so that it's far enough away from Jamaica, the mountains of Cuba, Hispaniola. That would be a really disgusting and nasty and catastrophic flooding event if it stalls over land. Obviously, we want this thing to kind of stall in the open waters of the Caribbean. Something to watch. Okay. So let's take this out further. And we are looking at this thing right here. This big dip in the jet stream that's going to bring some cooler air to the eastern third of the United States by Halloween is going to start to tug that guy north. But the question is, okay, where exactly is it? Is it out here? Is it right where the European says it is? Is it further down here? Is it right here? And it could scrape there. It could lift north there. So that is what we have to fine tune. Hurricane hunters are going to get up in this thing starting tomorrow. That's going to be October 21st. And will show and will get us some better data. I want to show you the wind shear. This is not in a pristine environment. This is why I also think that the Western favoring guidance is going to be correct because obviously the Caribbean's juiced. We've talked about that at length, but the atmosphere is not pristine, so I don't think it's going to completely explode and run away. Let me back this train up just a little bit. So here we go on Sunday. This is the real nasty, the real bad wind shear for the storm. But this is another reason why, like, the Gulf is closed. If it gets close, it's shear will kill that thing and push it away. But notice we do still have some wind shear out ahead of it. So it's not a completely pristine environment again. It's not just going to be a runaway gangbusters. I'm not saying it's not going to become a strong storm, but it's going to allow the storm, because it should stay weaker for longer, it should allow the storm to meander further west than what these are showing. So I think as we get Hurricane Hunter data around the Caribbean and from the storm, we might see these models shift to the west a little bit. But with that said, for the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America, the Gulf, wherever it go, however far west it goes, I think it stays out of the Gulf. Southeast Florida, not a non-zero chance, but still, I would put more stock into the European. There is the European solution, by the way. And we may see this come further to the west, but just look at what I'm talking about here. Notice how it just stays there for a couple days and then lifts through eastern Cuba, much further west than the GFS. I really think we're going to start to see things caving to the western solution. Let me know your thoughts on what you think is going to happen. This is likely and hopefully our last threat of the season. Unfortunately, it's in the Caribbean where we have people living. Watching it closely, of course, will give continuous updates, but just wanted to share with you that information that we've really kind of tied on over the weekend, that we thought it would be weak entering the Caribbean, and therefore scenario 2 is playing out, if you remember the video from last week, over scenario 1 or 3, where it's weaker for longer, it gets a little stronger, trough lifts it north, still though impacting land. Have a great evening, everyone. Love to know where you're tuning in from. If you're brand new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Catch you next time.